Welcome back to the 7th grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about Negro grit. Black people, African Americans in particular, have a built-in resolve. We have a cultural legacy of surviving and thriving in the most harshest and brutal conditions. It was brought to my attention recently that a lot of people were checking out, first mentally and then physically during the pandemic. Now, when I say a lot of people, I'm talking about just, white people in particular, most people that are not black. And somebody brought up the point that a lot of these people were committing suicide because they could not take the fact that their world had been shaken up and turned upside down.
Isolation, given rules that they didn't agree with, etc.
So it's because of this, it caused me to think of the catastrophic grooming that black people have experienced in this country. Now, of course, there is trauma all throughout the diaspora. But in this conversation, I'm focusing specifically on the African American experience because it is one that is unique to the entire world. Because out of that misery, out of that brutality, the most beautiful things in the history of the world have been created. And so it makes me think of all of these great accomplishments, all the great accomplishments that black people have managed to manifest against the odds.
Inventions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, telephone. Was it Alexander Graham Bell or was it Granville T. Woods? That's a real thing. Granville T. Woods was his brother that did all these diagrams and drawings for all these different people when it came time for them to patent their invention. So when you realize Granville T. Woods did everything for the telephone, you have to wonder what was Alexander Graham Bell's actual role in it and how many of our inventions were stolen. Because there's a saying that you don't get when you're younger, but you understand when you get older. The only thing the white man ever invented was the patent office. And so when you're a kid, you hear that, you don't get it. But when you become older, you're like, oh, hell. The white man patented every damn thing. He didn't invent everything. He just got it on record. And that's something that we've experienced as black folks over the years. We know this. So when we also talk about this resolve or how we invent things, how do these people at the time, like I said, one, we've always been educated, but our early years in this country as this incantation of it, we weren't allowed education, we weren't allowed speech, we weren't allowed formal writing, all the
land ownership, voting rights,
all gun rights,
property ownership.
We were lied to about who owned the rights, to
the complete lack of freedom of movement. How most black people that were on plantations never left them 1 mile radius of the plantation.
Or let's not forget, many black folks were either Native American or part Native American tribes. So you had to deal with the Trail of Tears, or how about the Seminoles, the ones that left. They were forced to leave Florida, went to Oklahoma, didn't like it, then went and bought them a space in Mexico. Yeah, the Seminoles moved twice. Like, look, we go to Mexico, screw this. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of stories out there, but the bottom line is that we succeed under very adverse conditions. And here's the other question. There are a lot of people that when you look at the past that were considered black that ain't considered black now. The Kochians, which are when they're talking about ancient Egypt and they're talking about the Kochians were in southern Russia. So a lot of Russians are black, a lot of Germans are black. And we all think
Peter the Great of Russia, his grandfather was black, making him black.
Hey, no, the guy that came up with the Russian language, I can't think of his name. I'm gonna say the wrong name, so I'm not gonna say it.
Right, but see, the Orthodox Christianity of Russia comes from Egypt.
Yes. Yeah. See, well, the point we're making is that the narrative got changed. We get all that. We've always talked about that. But let's talk about the success we've had in spite of the obstacles that were placed in front of us. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about, okay, so how do you live with a depressed dollar and inflation? Oh, nigga, that's how we always live. We're used to it. You buy some ramen noodles, you buy a little bit of fruit, and you keep it moving. You dig? How many of these guys you see come out of prison and they're swole? They work out every day. The dude said, "Man, all I ate was ramen noodles and half a pack of seasoning because it was too much salt." Yeah, no steroids, no nothing. Just work. So you see this over and over. You hear these stories over and over.
But look though, look. Black in America, you learn how to do more with less. The people always wonder like, why are black people so fiscally conservative? It's because
They had to be.
everybody got a head start on you. So therefore, you got to hurry up and get your ass out there and get it on so that you can actually deal with this unleveled playing field.
You're also taught early on that money doesn't matter, and your family does. And so, you know, it's real difficult right now. But back in the day, parenting was much more about. I'm gonna say a mean shit. It was much more about success. It was much more about results. So you had these families with 11, 12 kids working a farm, and you saw that shit. Grandma and grandpa got together. Grandma was 14, grandpa was 21, and they've been married for 85 years. Had 17.
Hashtag pedophilia. Go ahead.
It wasn't pedophilia back then.
Doesn't matter. It's still pedophilia.
No, it does. It does matter. Now, I'm gonna tell you why it does matter, because the fact of the matter is those people stayed together and they had a successful life together.
Hey. Whoa. Don't give a pass to this bullshit just because it's an old ass tradition. Because butt fucking in Greece has been a tradition for a long ass time. That's what gymnasiums were. Okay. But listen. Whoa.
That's what orgies
Yeah,
were.
but see, no. But right there, you just like this. You gonna just walk by the room, throw a smoke grenade in the fucking room, and walk away.
No,
Man. Hold on, dude. Hold on. The way you just threw that shit out there casually, that's part of the problem. Because that is 100% pedophilia, all right? And it was considered okay because motherfuckers live so far away from educated areas, and these uneducated country people just thought this shit was okay. It's not okay. Listen, man, hey, still to this day, I didn't think this shit was okay when I was in fucking high school. I was 16 years old, and one of the girls I wanted to holler at had some fucking 30-year-old ass pedo coming to pick her up from school.
Hold it.
No, it's the same fucking thing.
Whoa, slow down. So I'm in agreement, but let's have a whole conversation. The whole conversation is they were doing it in. What you're saying is that it was accepted because it was country. That's not the case. They was doing the same thing in cities. You read all this stuff about your dad. He'd be like, he would break this shit down to us. These Jewish dudes were marrying their cousin. We seen this shit. I get it. Pedo. I get that. I'm just saying back then it wasn't a thing. Now, was it not a thing because people were uneducated, or was it not a thing because of small population? Was it not a thing?
Both.
Because all kinds of different shit. But don't make it because it had to do with education, because motherfuckers were doing the same thing. So that's not the reason. It was just a different time.
I think now, because I don't think education had. I think education did have something to do with this shit because
because you're under the
hey man, hey, stop defending motherfuckers just because they country, and stop giving them a pass just because they country motherfuckers. All right, yeah,
okay,
no,
stop saying that because they're rural, they're dumb. That's not the case.
No, listen, man, I'm telling you because the motherfucker is less educated, yet they're going to be more of a fucking pedo.
And I'm saying educated people are equal. So you're saying that because you're educated, educated people created whole societies just to be fucking pedophiles.
Yes.
They create a whole situation.
But see, this is the thing though. If those girls were educated, they're not gonna want to be around some old ass motherfucker, man. They want more opportunities. Number one. They want greater agency. Hold on. No, whoa. They want greater agency. Okay? They want more opportunities in life so they can do shit and explore shit. I'm gonna give you a perfect fucking example of this, man. Okay. There's a black woman from Atlanta, Texas. Okay? She was the first. Hold on a second. I got this shit right fucking here. Bessie Coleman, born in Atlanta, Texas in 1892, grew up in a family of 13 children. She had dreams of soaring through the air, and so she went to France in 1919 and found a flight school that was willing to teach her. She returned to the U.S. in 1921, and she was the first black civilian to be a licensed pilot in the world. Coleman was met with press coverage and attention. She used her platform to do events like parachute jumps and give lectures. all with the aim of opening an African American flight school. Coleman would only perform for desegregated crowds. She died in 1926 during a test flight. Listen, man, a girl like that is not marrying some old ass dude, man. Hold on. She fucking ran away to France.
Hold it, slow down.
To learn how to become a pilot because she didn't want. Listen, she grew up in exactly the type of family we talking about. 13 fucking kids on a farm, bruh.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't want this shit. I want to do. I want no. You trying to tell me that these girls would rather wait. These girls would rather be on a fucking farm, being some broodmare, or would they rather be exploring their possibilities through education? They're gonna take the latter.
No, you try to tell me that we can speak for them. I'm just saying, let's ask a woman. The bottom line is this: everybody's situation is
I don't
different.
have to ask a woman because I see how.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. No, I don't. You know why? Yeah. You know why I don't have to ask women? No, see, this is that bullshit. Listen, and this shit's programmed in your fucking head because, dude,
it's not bullshit.
Hold it. It's bullshit. Here's why it's bullshit. Because I don't need to go ask a woman. All I have to go and look at is fucking history. Because look at the progression. Women got the right to vote. Women were graduating from universities, and what happened? They started spending less time at home and more time in the school, in at work, you know what I'm saying? And becoming more active in the community. Their voice was being heard by people. Women in these situations you're talking about, the only place their voice is heard, that echo does not extend beyond the property that they live on.
Yeah, okay. So what you're saying, when did that start taking place? Because it wasn't always that way. I'm trying to tell you that you know as well as I do, you got Princess Nzinga. You got legitimate African countries where these women were on their own property, were allowed to vote, were allowed to have multiple husbands. That shit changed at some point. So all I'm simply saying is women have always had a choice. Women have always excelled. Now, there is a part of society when it came to America, they were allowed to get away with that bullshit. Like literally, this country was set up for that. I get what you're saying, and I'm in agreement. All I'm simply telling you is that women have persevered, just like everybody else. They've dealt with the fucked up situations. I'm just saying, give the person a choice. Some people...
Man, look, right now, you sound like one of them white motherfuckers that are like, all lives matter. Nah, bro.
Oh,
listen, man. Listen to me. No. Listen to me, man. Listen to me. I got a homegirl that listens to this show right now, okay? And she tells me that she has 2 kids, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and she went from working a full-time job to being a housewife. And she tells me that she loves her children. She wishes she had more help. Husband ain't shit. She wants her fucking life back. So when you tell me that these women were doing just fine and everything is right, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
No, what I said is people make different decisions based on the criteria they had. Your ass walked in a different direction and jumped in the pool. So we're going in the deep end of the pool. So and I don't want to use this word like it's a problem with women. That's not a problem. The reality of a woman is that you could have your body hijacked by a motherfucker that's dumb as fuck. And I'm not just talking to kid. I'm talking about the adult that had sex with you. So you dig a nigga for 5 minutes, you have sex with him, you make and have a kid with him. You probably never meant on having a long relationship with this motherfucker. This was just supposed to be entertainment. So this is something that literally happens in the black community. I said this on Facebook, and this is what I said. I said what hurts the black community, black men and women, is we learn more of our education from entertainment than from history. So motherfuckers literally make decisions based on what feels good or what they saw in a movie or a fucking TV show or a book they read or a fucking chat or some bullshit like that, or just the fact that something felt good right then and there. So this felt good right then and there. Now you got a kid with a motherfucker that has an IQ of 12. What do you do? Persevere. So if you don't think this shit happens on both sides, man, there's a couple in the media right now, and I'm just trying to tell you, I think it happened. So you got this couple named, what's his name? Will Smith, and her name is Jada Pinkett Smith. So you don't see where Will had 2 kids with this chick, and he elevated her to like, okay, man, she's mom status. she's a goddess, she's this, and this bitch is fucking tramp material. If it wasn't for that marriage and those two kids, we don't know what that motherfucker, that chick would have been
He'd be
doing.
Audi 5000, dude.
Man, she would fucking all kinds of hoe and shit. Look, so what I'm trying to say, I want to say this correctly, that yeah, man, you could have your future sabotaged. And that's why my brother hates pedophilia so much, is because literally you can damage somebody for the rest of their fucking life, and it ain't always childbirth. People have those wounds forever. And I get that shit. All I said was back in the day, we always hear about that shit, and those relationships were successful. But the problem is, were they really successful, or was it kidnapping? Is what my niggas saying. My dog is telling you, a lot of the motherfuckers, men and women, were kidnapped. A lot of the motherfuckers were held against their will. A lot of the motherfuckers weren't given the opportunity to make a decision that would be different.
I think that shit was Stockholm Syndrome, going back to episode like 4 and shit, man. That shit was
No,
fucking
dude,
Stockholm Syndrome like a motherfucker.
So like I said, like the same thing you always hear me say this on the podcast. You got to have the whole conversation. That's why Roscoe's holding me accountable. He said have the whole conversation. You can't just glance over that shit and sit here and act like. And all I'm saying is that the part I was really pointing out wasn't the pedophilia. I was saying that these people literally had 13, 14, 15, 17, 19 kids, and everybody survived, everybody ended up thriving, everybody went their own different directions. Because you've seen that before. 2 of them are pilots, one's a doctor, 2 more are farmers, a third one just has a family, and 2 of them are school teachers. You have these situations where everybody they all became adults and blossomed and went other directions. That was actually the point I was trying to make, was that how the hell do you succeed with no fucking money? I was really going on the monetary side. You're going on the, hey, man, you cause all kinds of trauma, R. Kelly style, motherfucker. And so, yes, that needs to be addressed also. But like I said, seriously, the only point I was making is that they had these super large families, super little bit of money. I remember, like, my mom talked about being from the country. She said the key to her success when they were kids was, we didn't know we was broke. I'm like, what? She said, yeah, I had no idea I was broke until I got to college. My mom was like, I had no idea. All I knew is we had clothes and we had food, and mom and daddy owned the land and they owned the house we lived in. So we don't know about debt. We always had a car. Sometimes you had to walk to church. That was it. That's what they knew. So they knew nothing different. That's just my point, is that success is a point of view, and if you don't know that you're not successful, you won't behave like you're not successful. You dig what I'm saying? If you literally think that I'm on par. And that's something else that we talked about in past podcasts. You got motherfuckers back in the day that decided they didn't want to be rich, and like, oh man, and that's a foreign concept to us now. We're so fiscally driven that when a motherfucker like, hey, I need money, you're like, yeah, that motherfucker crazy. No, these people back in the day decided like money was not a motivating factor. I told you about my homeboy that went to Ethiopia, and he met this motherfucker, and he said this nigga had a donkey, and he's like, man, hey, you don't want no car? Like, man, nah. And he said, because you thought this guy had a donkey, you thought he was uneducated. Like, nah. And he sat there explaining why he didn't want to be part of OPEC and have a car and be beholden to these motherfuckers. So that's the concept I was talking about earlier. Is like, you assume because this nigga got a donkey, he's uneducated. Like, no, he made a conscious decision. Like, man, I don't need no gasoline. That's just a way to be manipulated and controlled by white folks that don't, and had an intelligent conversation and jumped on his donkey and went on about his business. That's all. That's the point I was trying. The whole idea that because you decided not to be part of this fiscal rat race bullshit does not mean that you're not educated. Just because you're not in the big city doesn't mean that you're not educated. That's all I was saying.
All right. So look, let's go back to what we were talking about mental resolve, about grit, inner strength. So
succeeding through all.
Suicide is one of those things you don't hear a lot about in the black community. Part of the reason is because other people haven't experienced what we have in quite a while. Almost never. And so our situation is unique. So when people talk about like a black person committing suicide is like somebody telling you they saw a ghost. It's actually more common to see a ghost than it is to hear about a black person committing suicide.
How many black folks? I only know one that pops. Forgive me. I only know one that pops into my mind. How many do you know? Can you think of?
Uh-uh. Mm-mm.
Uh, Yeah, you went to
Listen,
high school
I'm
too.
talking about there was maybe one in high school, I think it was. Maybe one. I'm talking about like through high school, through college, after college, in my adult life.
Yeah, no, I'm being serious. I'm trying to think. Like
How many you know of?
just the one, all A's,
Yeah.
Anton, whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Douglas.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Anton
that's
Douglas.
it. Yeah, that's the only one
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. He was the only person. But see, okay, the problem there is that there was some type of mental imbalance, clearly. Because let's be honest, that suicide is a public health problem that can be avoided. But people have to look for the signs. So, okay, depression is what leads to suicide.
Well, hold on. Other things lead to suicide beside that, but that's the thing. That's the core thing. Is
That's
that
the
look?
main thing is
Yeah,
depression. There's
yeah,
other things, but depression.
yeah.
So, for whatever reason, all A's was depressed, and it caused him to commit suicide. I remember now, like, because
I
we
was
was
there.
cool. We was cool.
I,
We would kick it and stuff like outside of high school.
yeah, yeah.
And matter of fact, like, okay, there was this rap group, and he would come and
Yep.
he would like we would cipher up and freestyle and like make beats and like rhyme over them and do shows and everything. And
I was working with him at the time. I was working with him at Fort Credit.
yeah,
And he
but
had called me the day before, and that's why I felt some kind of way because he had reached out to me, and me and him wasn't like that. So when I see the call, I ignored the call. I was doing something,
mm-hmm.
and I just assumed he wanted to go to the strip club and kick it or whatever. And I'm like, I was tired at the time. You remember I was working a full time job at the railroad, and I was also working there
Mm-hmm.
like some crazy 20 hours a week, 20, 30 hours a week.
But
Plus I was doing.
but the thing is, like, I remember one of the guys that was in that cipher. I remember clearly. He said he's walking in confusion,
Mm.
and he noticed some things about his behavior that were out of pocket. But what I'm saying is, depression was one of those things. But like when I was around him, I could tell there was this. He
You
was
sensed it.
off balance. No, it's not
You,
that the fact he was sensitive. There was
no, no,
something.
no, no. I said you sensed the
Yeah,
difference. You sensed it.
one
I
hundred
didn't
percent.
say
But see, there was a
yeah.
disturbance in the force, and like I read that like right away. Like I could tell, like, oh, there's something. He's not. He doesn't have inner peace. Like inner peace is difficult for him to reach.
Look,
So, but the
I
thing,
look.
hold up. So every time, like we would go and we would kick it, or we would cipher up or whatever. I could tell that like everything that he rhymed about was from a place of. It's almost like there was happiness in doing that, but he was agitated. Like
Do you think that was his therapy? Do you think his
music
rhyming
was
was his therapy?
100% his therapy.
Yeah.
Music was 100% his therapy, but I could tell that he needed some help. And so, yeah, these are my observations. You know what I'm saying? Like I could tell that there was something wrong there. I mean, people people
Well,
people could
here, here,
tell, or people could either you could tell, or you didn't know, or you just avoided like talking about it.
here's the whole conversation that we're both trying to have, and we're not giving the right words to it. There's no way in the world that these people who commit suicide, there's nobody, unless they're alone, there's nobody in the world that didn't know something was up. Somebody in your cipher, somebody in your circle, somebody in your family had to have seen, somebody at your job had to have seen some kind of warning signs. And you always hear that. I'm not trying to be all white, but, you know, that guy, that color guy we always talk about, I, there was a time when he was going through something, and I recognized it. I went right to the dude's mom. I'm like, hey, you know what? I don't know what to do in this situation. I was young. I think I might have been 22 at the time. I was in college, maybe first, second year, and I'm lying then. I was younger then. I was probably 19 or 20, excuse me. And so I'm talking to dude, and he kept bringing up that suicide subject. He did it very casually, like, man, shit. You know, if I wasn't here, man, shit, I don't understand why niggas kill themselves. You know, he said some weird shit like that, right? And I don't want to, I don't know verbatim because it's been too many years. It's been literally like 20 years. And I'm like, this ain't cool. I'm like, dude. And I recognize because again, I worked with all A's and the color guy all at the same job. And so when dude spoke about that, I just went to his mom like, "Hey, I'm young. I'm a kid. I don't know what this dude's on. I don't know what he's going through." And his mom laid some shit on me like, "Hey, you know this, that." I'm like, "Damn, this nigga really dealing with some shit." And I said, "Look, I don't know how to help, but you need to talk to him because he's using that suicide word just like it's just he was using it weird." You know, not it's not. We weren't talking about suicide. We're talking about football, and like, you know, we're talking about just rap. We're talking about completely unrelated shit, and this nigga would pop suicide up in there, and that's when I realized like this nigga's dealing with some shit, and I was too young to help, so I went like, hey, ma, yo, he needs some help. So the idea when people say like, oh, nobody knew, or you saw something, you just the reason you say nobody knew is because you want to alleviate any blame that you might have on yourself. Um, you know, I saw, you know, that if I can describe the scene because I went to work the next day, and when I'm getting off, they said, you know, all A's killed itself. I go to the apartment because the color guy and all A's were staying in the same apartment complex. I see the sliding glass door is shattered with a hole in it because you know he shot himself. Police were there. I saw the yellow tape. I know the whole scene to this day. So yeah, that's the crazy part with all the trauma that black folks deal with that we don't think about suicide more. I keep hearing the numbers are on the rise, but you know, I'm sorry as a black person with all the things we know and all the people we know, I don't know. I've only known one person,
I
and
think
I'm
what
and I,
happened. I think that what happened in his situation is that he gained local notoriety as an MC,
ooh
and
ooh.
he started gaining this notoriety doing these shows, and he was doing shows like not just there, but like around the area, right
He was in
around
Denver. Yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah. He
region.
was
And this started while he was in high school.
I,
So I think that
this is deep shit.
this is what I think happened. He peaked in high school. Um, and
That's deep, man.
but I mean that in the most gentle way possible. He peaked in high school, but see, it wasn't popularity. It was beyond that. It was his creative peak. And
A lot of black folks do that. You
but
know when you
see,
see the old black
hold on,
guy.
man, hold up. He didn't ride the wave.
Yeah,
He
no.
wiped out, and because to use a surfing analogy, he made it through that barrel, through that he rode that big wave, and he came out. And instead of catching another wave, he came out of that barrel and then wiped off because this was a guy that was going on stage and he was getting love from, you know, crowds of people,
We talk. Yeah, yep.
and like, you know, he was making these connections with human beings, and then that
It's
seemed to
gone.
stop, right?
It's gone.
That stopped because it seemed like, you know, he wasn't doing as many shows after high school.
But
And
but you said
hold on, wait, whoa. And so he was more of like a solo act at that point. And so then he didn't have the support system to help propel him to the next level. So I saw this with like a lot of underground acts in the early 90s. Guys
but
would start in a group and they get on stage and they start blowing the fuck up, and then they attempt to go solo and they don't have the momentum, or they lack the personality, or they lack the social dynamic to get people to gravitate towards them, or they just don't have that swag on their own.
yeah, yeah.
And so because of that, they can't recalibrate their systems and they crash into a wall. And I think
Ho-
that's what happened in his situation. But this is just my perception. But anyway,
yeah,
the reason
yeah.
why I bring this up, hold on, bro. The reason why I bring this up is because there's a most of the people most of the black people that you see that are committing suicide are young people, mostly.
Yes.
And this is not a popular opinion, but it's mine. Hard times
Make I knew it.
make hard men. Hard men make
Make
easy
easy
times.
times.
Easy times make soft men. So we're dealing with
The
the
product.
great
The
great
product.
grandchildren of hard men.
And women.
And and when I say that, I mean mankind.
Yeah, I know that,
And
but I'm just
so,
sticking that in there. I don't
okay,
want
okay, 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 motherfucker, just stop virtue signaling. All right. So the thing is that when you're dealing with a legacy of powerful people, you gotta fucking set it off, man.
to. It's hard to measure up, dude. For real.
Listen, but
Like,
but you can though. You can.
oh
The
no,
only
no,
the only
no.
thing is that there's other problems associated with living being black in America in 2022. And what I'm saying, the same applies to 1999. What I'm saying is that
1993.
the
Yeah.
the ease of life, the ease of life,
You should be doing
ease can
more.
become dis-ease. And listen, those hard men that made the way for us, they didn't have much time to relax. They would go to the juke joint, they would go to church, and then they would go back to the lab and get it on. Because life
Was,
did
was
not
important.
allow for a whole lot of time to chill out. And so the problem is we're in a leisure culture now.
Roscoe, you said such deep shit. You won't even let a motherfucker like. I can't even get a foothold on the shit you. Going back to the deep shit you said is something that you talk about in the past. Hold on, that's not like no, ain't fair, nigga. First things first. A lot of niggas do peak in high school. And men and women, they peak in high school. Most women don't cling to that kind of success the same way. What I was saying is when you see that nigga and he's driving an old car, and it's all he's driving like a 1964 whatever. It's not because he's broke. It's because that's when he peaked. He's hanging on to that success. That's some deep shit. But some motherfuckers can hang on to it and parlay it into something else. And other people, like you said, literally it consumes them. When your success is too early, it consumes you. Second, oh my God, so you said so much deep shit. You, you, what you're referring to is the fact that we live in a leisure society, and that's almost like a cuss word based on our ancestors who were always.
Get off your ass and go to
Yeah,
work.
dude. Here's how deep. Here's how deep what you just said is. Look at all the forms of music that are developed by Black folks. Most of our music is developed out of pain. Like so, it goes in cycles. You got gospel, then you got blues. You got gospel, you got jazz. So gospel is so jazz is up there, blues is down here, rock and roll is up there, hip hop is down here. You know, country's up here. This is down. It just show it goes up and down. That our genres of music. A motherfucker created the blues, and people like, man, how you gonna sing about bad shit, nigga? I'm going through bad shit. Nigga, I came out of slavery to become a sharecropper. Now I'm still beholden to the same nigga I was beholden before. That motherfucker that slept with my wife and all my kids is light skinned, and that's the blues. And that motherfucker, and so literally that's how rap was. It came out of a negative situation. Like literally, like, hey man, I live in the ghetto, cops kill it, police brutality, yada yada yada, sell drugs to get out, but I'm wrong for being a capitalist. Everybody around that's the shit. And so when you see how our forms of leisure were even rough and hard, and that these motherfuckers drank like crazy, or these motherfuckers, it shows you that where we come from and how we coped was different. Sometimes we didn't cope, and if we stopped to really think about what we're going through, somebody asked me all the shit I've been through. Like, man, I'm like, dude, I just keep moving. If I stop and really think about the shit, I'd probably cry. I ain't got time for that shit. All I got time for is to be successful. All I got time for is this. And so, like, literally, we've the reason we don't recognize that we're coming out of a difficult situation is because we don't acknowledge the difficult situation. We only acknowledge the people, the work, the shit. That's what you do. Like, me and you. Some people consider us middle class. Some people consider us growing up broke. We never considered either one. All I remember is that you bought your first water bed and you had a paper route, and I bought my. All we knew was that if you wanted something, you had to get it, and you worked to get it, and we weren't allowed to talk about it either. My mom was like, "Hey, don't brag about shit." I'm like, "Why not?" Like, nah, because you brag about something, somebody's gonna break in your house and take it. That kind of shit. And so sometimes we never counted our successes. Looking, we were pretty damn successful, but it was because of our own hard work, not because of our parents. We were not spoiled. And you're only child. Like, nigga, I come from a single parent family. I am not spoiled, my nigga. Me and my mama both broke at the same time. So yeah, like that all age situation. It, it I know it's messed up. I can sit here and remember how that shit looked and everything else. I remember a lot of shit about that day, but it's what it is. Um, you said some deep shit. That's all I'm saying is that literally that a nigga can peak in high school and that shit can torment him for the rest of his life. But that's the same thing. Like how many women have you thought about that you wanted to holler at, but you were busy at the time and you did not like looking back like, man, I was at Costco. I should have hollered at that bitch. Fuck, my life might be different. Yeah,
Don't
but
do
we
that.
don't.
Don't do that.
We don't dwell on that. I mean, I might think I could tell you what that chick. Man, I saw this bitch. I could tell you like 2 or 3 times when a woman just blew your mind, and I'm looking back, man. I should have went ahead and got that number. But do I fall apart because of it? That's the whole thing. People, it's how,
Hey. That's the road to regrets. Fuck that. Woulda, shoulda,
yeah,
coulda is for hand grenades, shotguns, and horseshoes. Yeah,
and
fuck all that shit.
we don't have time for that. Like, look, I think about shit like 5 seconds, and that's why I love black women, but I diss black women because y'all motherfuckers love to go on Facebook and keep track of your exes. Nigga, I don't keep track of my garbage. I don't go to garbage can a month later and like, sorry, hey man, I should have read this article. No, I don't. Yeah, who keeps track of their garbage? Black women. Leave them niggas on Facebook alone and stop following their relationships. Nigga, live with the relationship you got now, if that's who you with. If you don't want to be with that motherfucker, eliminate that. But back to what we were saying earlier about having children with the wrong person. It will tie you to a person that you hate like a motherfucker. Well, we talked about motherfuckers being in relationships that like having it. I guess it's harder for a woman because the child comes out of you, and so your connection is going to be different. But don't give the father value if he ain't got value on his own. You can't just like, hey, this is my baby father. Like, nah, that nigga should be a grown man. Like, hey, this is my man, and we did this, and that child should be a product of a healthy relationship, not that what the relationship is based on. Like I said, I've said that 1,000 times. Um, but that, but how many, like you said, you see women still persevere. You still see women get their doctorates and become successful in their industry. Being a mom, single parent. Some just because you married don't mean you ain't a single parent, nigga. A lot of these motherfuckers are co-parenting and they're married. That's fucked up, but that's how it is. So having one good parent is really important. But we always, like you said, we come out of these negative situations, and sometimes, like I said, when you're in them, you don't know they're negative. The only way you find out they're negative is when you become an adult and you look back like you see 18 other families and they don't look like yours, and they don't have the same problems you got. You know,
Okay, the first black director of a Hollywood studio film was Gordon Parks, but he didn't begin his career as a filmmaker.
nah, he was a still photographer.
So he had a long career as a photographer and a writer. In fact, he was the first black staff photographer at Life magazine. He signed a contract to make 1969's The Learning Tree and earn him a place in history as the first black director of a Hollywood studio film. Now, he didn't make a movie until he was 55. So, okay, I want this to sink in for everybody. Gordon Parks didn't make The Learning Tree until he was 55. So that means he was like 58 when he made Shaft. Now check this out. So a lot of people forget that the old black bluesmen, guitar players, musicians, and the singers, that they were these young dudes. Well,
No, oh no,
some of them were, but the majority of them didn't pick up a guitar until the age of 40. I want y'all to think about that for a second. See, America, pop culture is youth culture.
it's a young thing. That's deep.
So the problem with hip hop music is that white people and Jews will not allow it to grow up out of perpetual adolescence. So what I'm talking about is the prison industrial complex wants to keep the machine going. It wants to keep conscious hip hop away from people and from succeeding. So what I mean by this in general is that if you are always thinking like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 17-year-old kid, you're going to put yourself in precarious situations that require authorities or the state to step in and control your life. You have whole groups of black folks that have become accustomed to having the state or some authority mediating their life, making decisions for them, that people become institutionalized through prison or through the welfare state. They get used to somebody telling them when to go to sleep, where you can go, where you can be, at what time, and what your boundaries are. What that is what Alex Haley would refer to as a slatey person. He talked about these people in Roots. And the slatey were these people that were used to enforce. If they were used as enforcers for oppressors, but they liked these jobs because it made their life simple. They were simpletons.
You give them authority.
And so when you see people who like being institutionalized and people who enjoy being on welfare, that is a direct attribute of slavery. But the thing is that is something that was nurtured in slavery, but it started in Africa. So here's the deal, though. With hip hop being 45 years old now, it is in a place where we can't just talk about the same old shit anymore. It's time for hip hop music to branch off and become older. Let's make some grown hop. Motherfuckers talking about the shit they going through with their wife and their kids, or on their job, or against the state. Real shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of mother. Oh, no. Because
I wasn't
hip hop needs to grow the fuck up. Straight up. Because I'm tired of like turning on the radio and hearing shit that sound like it's made just for teenagers. With some teenager, like, you know, the grandson of a crack baby, like mumbling about some dumbass shit. And I'm like, okay, this is that lane. And they will say hip hop is a young man's game. No, hip hop is what we make it, dude. Hip hop is what we make it. It's ours. We own this. They don't own this.
Look, the problem is, one, you don't want hip hop to become the blues, but you want hip hop to be an adult. Two, that kind of shit don't sell. And that's what they tell you. But how
bullshit. Bullshit. And see, of course it'll sell.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not agreeing with them. It's just the idea. How does a white motherfucker, how does Leo Cohn, motherfucker in the office, how do you know what's hot? How do you know what works? How do you know? Oh, you count the sales. Nah, motherfucker. You won't even produce anything. You got Dead Prez. You got David Banner still producing shit. But they're still making their money without being on the radio. You know what I'm saying? The radio is not the only thing that dictates that shit. But the thing is, if you put it on the radio, it would sell. So you literally have to create your own radio network, your own networks for success. You got to create your own videos and put it on YouTube and get your own, 600 million likes and views and all this other shit. But the fact of the matter is, the reason we don't know if it works is because nobody is taking that chance of talking about real situations. Nobody's talking about being in debt up to your eyeballs. Nobody's talking about how did I get here. Nobody's talking about hold it. And me and you are hip hop heads. So there have been songs like that. Remember that MC Rail and the House Rockers? That's the life of an entertainer. This is a song this nigga wrote about him forgetting the lyrics to his own song on stage and having to figure this shit out. You know what I'm saying? That's deep shit. He's like he's poking fun, but he's not, because it wasn't a funny song. It's like, he's going through like, man, what happens if you can't produce?
Dude, listen, that guy has some dope ass songs. He had a song called Into the Future.
I knew you knew who I was talking about.
Of course I know, man. Come on.
But in most of his songs were more the kind of the house shit. And so he comes out with this song that's a lot of do. And he lays that shit out on different kind of beat, like, dude, your palms are sweaty. And so all this shit about Eminem, Mom Spaghetti, no, that nigga did not invent that shit. And I hate when motherfuckers act like everything M does is just so dope. And I'm like, nah, you had 19 other rappers do the exact same thing.
That's why I tell you, he is mediocre when you compare him to motherfuckers from the 90s.
Well, this goes back to, like I told you, when Jay-Z said what he said, I'm like, y'all motherfuckers, Jay-Z just dissed this nigga. Y'all just don't realize. He said, oh, M has good cadence. That's it. And I'm like, he has good cadence. That's all that nigga got. His lyrics are mediocre. It's not the lyrics. It's the fact that he can. That's it. And so when you realize that this motherfucker's overrated, but again, It's a white industry, so you got to push a white artist, and you know that the white artist will sell doing black music. Elvis was a hero to most. We see that shit.
Motherfuck
It's a
him and John Wayne.
exactly. It's a formula. They try to put a white artist in a black genre and sell to mass people. That's all it is. We've seen it before. Look, the whole point we're trying to make is that when a black person does excel at this crazy shit, nobody gives them credit. Everybody talks about Michael Jackson for being crazy, but nobody talks about Michael Jackson for being a businessman and owning half of the publishing for Sony BMI. Nobody talks about Mike owning most of the Beatles shit. Nobody talks about Mike buying up that whole fucking case of music and giving the rights back to many of those black artists, the black blues artists. Nobody talks about that. So, hey, and let's be honest, Mike had a fucked up situation. If you want to look at a nigga that came from nothing to something, Michael Jackson, Gary, Indiana, broke as fuck, singing and dancing with his brothers and sisters. Motherfucker, his dad was a piece of shit. Dad was overbearing. They sit there and they were forced, him and Tito were forced to hide under the bed while their brothers and their dad had sex with these chicks. Nigga did with all kinds of shit. And that motherfucker still sat there and was successful. Yeah, nigga was weird, but wouldn't you be? If you deal with all the trauma that motherfucker had. But nobody wants to talk about his financial success because you think it's all attributed directly from music, from his performing of music. It wasn't. It was because he was a good businessman. It was because he was talking to these old heads. They're like, hey man, having songwrites can do a lot for you. You remember, like the Beatles, literally they would say our music will never be in a commercial. Well, Mike bought that shit. Next, we're gonna have a revolution. It's all in Mike commercial. That's because Mike understood business. Once these folks are understanding business, that's what you don't want. You don't want your hoe to understand pimping because then you can no longer pimp them, and that's what this shit's about. You want to keep them down.
Okay.
I was about to say something. I couldn't tell if you. I can't tell you moving or talking. I didn't want to like. But now, the whole idea is that this. You hear Richard Pryor joke about this shit. Yeah, white folks know about hoes. We they hoes, and you like, oh man, that's no. He's telling you that we have been subjugated on purpose, and our existence in this country is on this. But the fact of the matter is that we were already here. We own this country. Once you find out what belongs to you, then all of a sudden you realize that where your place really is, and that I don't need your permission. You can't tell me what I can and can't do. You can't hold me back. But that's the whole thing, is that sometimes the reason black folks don't care about the same thing is because we don't care about money. Numbers belong to us. We don't belong to numbers, and we just do what the fuck we do. You see the shit with Hendrix. You see the shit when remember they said Jimmy loved to sign a contract. I think it was sign a contract. Yeah, I'll be there Thursday. Yeah, I'll be there Thursday. Yeah, he would overlap shows. Like literally, like, I don't give a fuck. You don't pay me? Here, I'll sign this. Give me that money. And so he lived in the moment, not because he was uneducated, but because, like, fuck it, this is y'all shit. I don't give a fuck. you try to make a world around me. I'm the star. Fuck y'all. And so you understand that the situation, the person is bigger than the situation, and that you can't sit here and expect, like you heard Tupac talk about, hey, a rose come from concrete, or we're demanding to be heard. Man, we've been doing that shit. Look, what happened, what resets it goes back to what you said, is that strong people make strong, strong times make strong people make easy things. Once you make them times easy, all of a sudden you got people who don't aspire to be as good as the past generation. And that's a problem. Everybody you should improve on the last person's struggle. You should piggyback what they did and go higher. Some of these motherfuckers are piggybacking and going lower.
Do you know why all those young black kids ran out in the streets and was protesting with Black Lives Matter? It's because they don't have anything else to define their generation.
I don't know. I really think
no. I don't think they do, because they don't listen. Life is too easy right now. There's nothing pushing back on them. So that's why they're out doing that, because, dude, that's why all these motherfuckers are on Twitter talking about their feelings, talking about, this offends me, that offends me, because there's too much ease in their life.
It's too much access for them to also talk. These people think talking is doing something.
Right.
This is the biggest hustle going.
Right.
Is that because I talked about it, I did something. And I'm like, nah.
Yep.
Starting a business, raising a family, going fishing, building a bird. Remember, we was kids building birdhouses, in the garage. We was doing shit.
Mm-hmm.
Our idea of doing shit wasn't the same as their idea of doing shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like oh, it's like you had a business meeting with yourself. Like I said, self, we gonna get something done today. So we talked on Facebook. Yeah, I put some pictures on Instagram. That's it. In your mind, that distraction is an activity. You literally was distracted for 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Literally. And you've convinced yourself that's not the same thing as when our people marched. That's not the same thing as when our people boycotted. That's not the same thing as when our people got up and kicked ass, physically kicked ass. Now people are afraid to kick ass. I might go to jail. Our people was going to jail all the
Dude,
time.
it's so funny, man, that when people don't have something in their life to give them resistance, they will look for ways to duplicate that. A perfect example of this
That's deep.
is
That's deep.
is CrossFit. CrossFit is basically cross training. All right, what that is basically lifting heavy shit, putting obstacles in your way, not just running, but also like doing things that you would do on a farm, that you would do as a tradesman working with your hands, that you
like
would
military,
do
if you were like in the military.
if it was military, if it's hard labor, you know what I'm saying? All these things. And when I see these routines that they put together, I'm like, a lot of that shit I would do just every day at work. And I'm like, this is it? This is what y'all doing? Like, this is challenging to you motherfuckers? Like,
you literally paying somebody else to do,
for example,
work.
A farmer's walk is where you pick the heaviest dumbbells that you can muster and you walk 100 feet with those in your hands. That's it. That only duplicates what a farmer would do when he would get buckets of grain and carry them from the silo to the field. That's it. That's it. That's what the farmer's walk is.
It's the same activities that they would. Same thing. Like say these guys were in the Navy. They had to carry a big chain. They're doing those activities.
I'll give you another example. Everybody, once they buy a house, most people, they want to plant a garden. Now, the first thing people want to go and plant in that garden is some tomatoes because it's easy, relatively easy. But once you get in that garden and you start getting your hands dirty, you actually start to like it because it's very satisfying. Because what's happening is that your ancestors are speaking to you through your blood. And there's so much cellular memory that is passed to you that is 1,500 generations old. You understand? So that these people that lived 100,000 years ago, they're in you. They're in your blood. They're in your DNA. You know how you would see, they talk about on these like Superman has a genetic memory of Krypton and like it's in his lineage, is in his blood. Well, so do you. You're no different than that. The only difference is, he has superpowers. Well, you do too. You just need to learn how to unlock them.
Yeah, they're just latent.
Right. So when you go out and you get yourself a garden and you start, getting in the dirt and working the soil and, you add nutrients to it, or you find ways to make these things. You learn how to make soil rich without putting artificial fertilizer, like using stuff like chicken crap or bat guano or kelp and stuff like that, and or making your own ferments and putting fermented rice water and fermented milk into the soil, and it creates healthy bacteria which the plants thrive off of. When you start learning things like this is old knowledge and useful skills that your great grandpeople had.
The natives were doing this years ago without factories, without hurting the environment. Look, right. It's deep because people, like you said, they don't even know they want to connect with their past. Mm-hmm. And they don't even know what activity is going to do it. So you like you said, you start digging in that soil, all of a sudden, you look up, it's 6 hours later, and you accomplished quite a bit.
And see, that's the thing, is you accomplish so much. You know what I'm saying? Dude, I'm going to tell you something. You can eat off of Craigslist. And
Oh, for sure.
for those that got the hustle muscle, you know what I'm talking about. That there are so many people on there that need stuff done around their house. And either they're old and infirm or they're just rich and they just don't want to do it. So they'll pay some person to come and shovel gravel all over their yard to make a patio or make a fire pit. Dude, I'm telling you, like there's jobs that you can do that get you out of the house, that get you into that quiet space mentally where the internal dialogue gets turned off. And that's a hell of a thing. See, a lot of these people that are suffering from depression, and they're on teetering on suicide, they can't turn off the internal dialogue. They can't stop the voices in their head. They can't
Look,
find stillness, the mindfulness.
look, women get mad. If your woman ever asks you, like, what are you thinking about? I ain't thinking about shit. That's not possible. Yes, it is. It's called stillness of mind. You just said it. I literally can sit there and be thinking about nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah,
I can,
I'm like,
like Storm Shadow used to say this, on G.I. Joe, like, you must empty your mind. Dude, it's possible. It is 100% possible. That's how you see like these martial artists do these like incredible feats, like where they're just like shooting this arrow like from the deck of a ship and like hit this target on another boat or some
hit the
shit.
car, hit the card sideways from miles away. Man,
That's
that
what I'm
shit
saying.
comes
Like all you're doing is turning off the internal dialogue. When you turn off the internal dialogue, when you learn how to still the mind, all that other stuff around you falls away. And here's another thing. Go outside and get some fucking sunlight. You're black. You need the sun to activate your melanin, to keep you funky, to keep your swag. Go outside and you know what? If need be, take your shirt off. Take your shirt off and let
get
the
that
sun
vitamin D.
hit your chest. Like, bro, like you got a backyard. You now, like, go in your backyard and just sit there with your shirt off, man. You know what I'm saying? And just read a book. Like, let the sun hit you. Like, all this shit about, listen, okay, here's another thing.
We're natural beings.
We are just overcome with, or inundated with fear. And there's so much fear about don't let the sun hit you. You're gonna get skin cancer. Don't do this. The shit in the air is gonna kill you. And there's the chemtrails and drones can shoot Jewish space lasers at you and all this crazy shit.
So the fuck what?
So what? So what? So what? You know what? Like, I'm not a fan of this guy, but he had this song at the beginning of the song, he says, "We will be here forever. We will be here forever and ever." And it just echoed. And like, that is powerful. But that shit, dude, it sits in your mind like, you know what? He's right. We will be here forever and ever. Stop worrying about shit. Stop worrying about shit.
I think one of the things that black folks have is the ability to read some shit or be told some shit and okay, cool, compartmentalize and go on and continue doing what the fuck I got going on. Did you hear me? It's acid rain. See, okay, whatever happened to acid rain, my nigga? Whatever happened to acid rain? Remember that was like a thing when we were like in second, third grade. Like,
strokes.
Hey, nigga, literally, we were afraid of acid. Like, it rains. There's so much acid in the rain. It fucks up statues. I'm like, man, it fucks up a statue, nigga. What's it gonna do to my skin, nigga? It would rain and we would probably get in the house. Like, fuck it.
That might be acid rain in New York, but where is acid rain in Nebraska?
Midwest.
in Colorado, like where is the acid rain?
Yeah, we ain't got the same kind of factory, but still, I'm saying that's how they would get you as a kid, like, oh man, and you would hear, then all of a sudden, like,
Dude,
you go
it's
home
always
and
Y2K and the world is gonna fall apart.
That's my point. There's always some next catastrophe, nigga.
Yeah.
There's always, and so like part of the black experience is like you would go home and tell your parents what you learned at school, and they like, what about the numbers, nigga? Can you spell? Like, they would like, hey, ma, more like, shit, man, you still can't spell esophagus. Like, nigga, no, I can't. So you would learn that there was a hierarchy. You got to prioritize shit. Like, okay, yeah, this is big, but it's not that big because there's still shit that you got to do that's right in front of you. There's still shit that you got to take care of. You still got to feed your family. You still got to finish cutting the grass. You still got to build a house. And like you have to decide like, okay, is this going to stop me from doing what my goal is? And also it's like, okay, so what can I do to also being black is like the part of you is like, what can we do to fix it? That's where that whole inventive side comes in. Like, well, how do we fix the situation? Either you fix that situation or you create a situation that gives you the ability to live with that situation. And so that means that all of us got to have umbrellas all the time. So fucking what? That's just how it is. Either you fix the sky or you make the sky smaller. You know, it sounds corny, but that's what you did as a black person. That okay, you know what? This is bad for us. You know, and it drives us crazy because you know how all of a sudden you guys are worried about us getting skin cancer. You wasn't worried about us getting skin cancer when we was your slaves making cotton. So how come niggas wasn't dying from skin cancer back then? That means there's something else happening that's causing the skin cancer. There's another catalyst out there that we're unaware of. And the only thing that we're worried about is the catalyst natural, or are you making the catalyst on purpose? Are these carcinogens by accident or on purpose? That's all you can ask.
Let's carry on and talk about some more accomplishments. So Fritz Pollard was the first black NFL coach. Nobody ever talks about this guy, Fritz Pollard. All right. The first black author to win a Pulitzer Prize was Gwendolyn Brooks. In 1950, she won a Pulitzer Prize for her book of poetry called Annie Allen. 5 years before that, in 1945, she wrote a book called A Street in Bronzeville. And it was about the black experience of black people in Chicago at that time. The first black Medal of Honor recipient. Now, when you hear that, you're like, oh, this guy, he got this shit like in World War II, or he got this shit in like Korea or some shit like that. No. William Carney. He was a member of the 54th Massachusetts Colored Infantry during Civil War. Carney and his fellow students were in the Battle of Fort Wagner in July of 1863. When his regiment color barrier was shot down during the battle, an already wounded Carney struggled to retrieve the banner himself. As he brought the flag back to his fellow soldiers, Carney was shot several more times. For his heroic actions, the soldier received a Medal of Honor, making him the first black soldier to receive the honor.
Look, we did a lot of shit during the Civil War. We kicked ass.
A lot. Dude, you had black spies, like Negro espionage.
Nigga, like whenever you talk about Harriet Tubman, people don't realize Harriet Tubman got the reason she got that military pension because she was a nurse, but because she was a spy. Yeah, they don't talk about that part. You know what I'm saying? They literally like glance over all our. We participated in the Civil War like nobody's business, and that was in Oklahoma, in Louisiana, you know, all over the place. And these stories of us just beating people up, you know, doing this shit that, oh, they're cowards. No, we're not. We've never been afraid of shit. Like, being afraid don't get you. Being afraid, like, as in, okay, I'm afraid of bodily harm. But being afraid as I won't do my duty, that's not us. That ain't been us.
It's crazy, man, like, because everybody's like always talking about blacks are so physically gifted when it comes to athletics. That comes from somewhere.
Yes, for sure.
That comes from survival. That didn't come from somebody just walking around like eating berries and, you know, and living off the fat of the land. No. That came from rugged ass living in a difficult environment. So I was watching a movie with my lady the other day, and we were watching this movie, and it was a black dude about to get killed by this creature, but he didn't get killed. Instead, he fought back, and he lived. And she was like, black person always dying in a horror film. And I said, yeah. She said, a black person would die in that situation. I was like, no. I said, you don't understand. People like that are the reason why we're alive today. These incredible human beings that existed a long time ago before there was history were killing,
that's deep.
We're fighting saber-toothed tigers. We're fighting lions. We're fighting hippos.
Prehistory, yes.
Prehistory. Like, these people were superheroes. They were the titans of our history. Okay? And so their body language, their musculature, their nervous system, which carried this information, that which carried the life force chi energy in them that made them powerful. All that has been passed to us. All of that is in you. And so, the problem is that we give our power away a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Preach.
Feel me? So this is when people talk like that, I have to correct them because, and I've been doing this more and more and more, and realize that you have superheroes inside you.
Walking in your face. In your face.
And once you can learn how to deal with the shits that are coming at you, guess what else? You develop character. Okay? What the fuck happened to character, man? What happened to people developing some fucking character because of the adversity they had dealt with? Well, these people that we've mentioned, this first female licensed pilot, the first black fighter pilot, the first NFL coach, there's a guy, he was the first black college student. The first guy to graduate from college in 1826 in Vermont was a black man whose last name was Twilight. Deal with that shit.
Look, the issue is we joke about the shit, but people are characters now. They don't have characters. Like you want to be a caricature. You want to be a walking stereotype. You want to entertain, but you don't want to enlighten or push through or have that grit or have that ability or that wherewithal. I want to make the situation. I want an easy situation, so I ain't got to think about it. Well, sometimes thinking is just part of life that you got to maneuver. Man, shit. Look, I love y'all. I want everybody to be happy and successful, but sometimes you're in charge of your own happiness. You got to make yourself happy. You got to make yourself successful. It's not going to be. You're not going to get discovered, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be sitting here raking grass. And oh my God, you're the best raker ever. Come work for me. No, my nigga. So, when these black folks was met with adversity, like, hey, you can't fly. We don't think you're smart enough to fly. Okay, I'll go someplace else, excel, come back, start a flying school, come back, be the best fighter pilot ever, come back. So don't be afraid to leave to reach your goals. Come back and just come back stronger, bigger, better.
Yep, that's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.